What's up, everyone? It's Gigi Sober Sun here, reading from the 24-Hour Day Book, February 4th. Treating others to drinks gave us a kind of satisfaction. We like to say, have a drink on me, but we were not really doing the other people a favor. We were only helping them get drunk, especially if they happen to be alcoholic. In AA, we really try to help other alcoholics. We build them up instead of tearing them down. Drinking created a sort of fellowship, but it really was a false fellowship because it was based on selfishness. We used our drinking companions for our own pleasure. In AA, we have real fellowship based on unselfishness and a desire to help each other. And we make real friends, not fair weather friends. With sobriety, have I got everything that drinking's got without the headaches? Yeah, I used to love being the big shot. The mother of my children is English, and I lived quite a few years, over a decade, in England while I was in the military, and my family lived there. And when I was drinking, I loved being the guy who could get the cheap alcohol on base. It was tax free and all that stuff, so loved being the big shot. And I can't remember how often I used to take like a case of beer over to somebody's house, and that was just like we were pre-gaming before we went out, and we'd have like one or two beers and then go, and I would leave the rest of the case, kind of thing, and not even think anything about it, but probably in my head calculating and keeping score on how often I left beer there. But anyway, yeah. So in recovery, we learn that we get to away to keep it, and I keep thinking back to that initial get together of Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith, where Bill really needed to help somebody, right? And if he had gone to Dr. Bob and said, you got to let me help you, Dr. Bob would have been like, I'm a doctor. I help other people, right? So it was probably presented to Dr. Bob as, this guy really needs help and you can help him. And, in sharing our story, we help others. And that's a wonderful thing, We can't, because in the 10th step in the big book, it talks about how when these crop up, selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, or fear, we at once ask God to remove it, talk to somebody about it, make amends if necessary, and turn our thoughts to someone we can help. It's like a little checklist. I had a sponsor present it as that at one point. A little checklist, which when I'm feeling lonely, when I'm feeling bored, when I'm any other feelings, in addition to selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, or fear, boredom, self-pity, self-pity, is a big one for me. So I got to get out of myself. Anyway, on to the meditation for the day. Now, I eliminated the first sentence. I'm not going to read that because it talks about what God cannot do. And I understand where they're coming from, but I'm not going to read it because my God is unlimited and there's nothing my God cannot do. So I go right into the second sentence, which is huge. I will throw away the crutch of alcohol and walk in God's power and spirit. God's power will so invigorate me that I shall indeed walk on to victory. There is never any limit to God's power. I will go step by step, one day at a time. God's will shall be revealed to me as I go forward. And in this, right, it lies the key. In the family afterward, and I can never remember the page numbers, it talks about how in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have. With it, you can avert death and misery for others, right? But if I'm just sharing my experience and my hardships from the past, it's easy to get stuck, or people might go, oh my God. I did this to one guy one time. We were driving in England to some function, and this guy was telling me how, his family is having a hard time. And then, like, for the next couple of hours, I think I told him all of my horror stories about, things that have happened in my family. And when we were almost there, he looks me dead in the face and goes, "Do you feel better?" And then I realized, oh crap, that was just all I shared with him was the crap, and none of the victory, and none of the goodness. And going back to the 10-step checklist, ask God at once to remove it, talk to somebody about it, make amends if necessary, and then turn our thoughts to someone we can help, right? If I jump straight to turn my thoughts to someone I can help, it's almost like I assault them with my need to help someone, right? Like, you gotta let me help you, kind of thing. If I don't first ask God to remove it, if I don't first turn to God and put it in his hands, everything else after that becomes like, if I, and I've done a lot of this lately within the past couple of months after my breakup, sort of assault people with, going straight to step 2 rather than asking God to remove it. Anyway, prayer for the day. I pray that I may have more and more dependence on God. I pray that I may throw away my alcoholic crutch and let God's power take its place. And I've heard that, it might have been Carl Jung, the late great Carl Jung, psychologist and author, who said that, basically alcoholics and addicts, we're just trying to replace the God hole that we have in our hearts and in our hearts with alcohol. We're looking for relief, and alcohol for me took care of that for a while. I found relief in alcohol, and it enabled me to do certain things. But after a while, as it required more and more and more, and that phenomenon of craving became a real thing in my life after taking a few drinks, and it took far more than it ever gave. And so I ended up in AA, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So God is real, and his power is infinite. And that's basically the point, right? I'm seeking a cheap alternative to the God of my understanding. And that was basically because I thought God hated me because I wasn't good enough and I didn't try hard enough, which had me running the opposite direction. And I had to become an alcoholic, and the folks in AA make it real simple. It's just about plugging into a power source and a source of peace and serenity that's going to help me get sober. And a day at a time, that understanding has grown, but not much. Once I think I've got God figured out, that's when, I don't have a big enough God. So anyway, Thanks for letting me share. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe if you can. And always, always remember, look up, aim up, and let yourself rise up. Have a great one, folks.